presentation was a very broad stroke, okay? This is a loaded topic. There's so much individual things that go into this. I'm going to try to touch on a lot of stuff with our time together. I know we got a mix of people in insurance and a mix of people in industry. So obviously I have information to present to you, but I want this to be a conversation. So please, any insight you have, for those of you in insurance, you know, give us, Kelly and I, an idea of maybe how your company is handling this. Oh, I got a clicker. That's not even the presentation. Look at that. So I am obligated to put this in here that basically says everything I say may or may not be the exact opinion of Cincinnati Insurance. My third slide, which I think is probably the absolute most important one of the day. Go Cats. I don't know where y'all's affiliations lie. Apparently Michigan basketball doing pretty well. Michigan State's doing pretty good. If you guys remember back in, I can tell you the date, November the 18th, Michigan State beat the brakes off of us, I think about close to 20 points. So if anybody knows why my allegedly $22 million basketball team was kind of not doing too well, please let me know. I'd really appreciate it. So I'll give you a little bit of background on what I do with Cincinnati Insurance. I was in the field forever, going out and meeting with our insurers or agents to help us write the best risk possible. I kind of went over to a specialist role about a year ago. So my job, anytime I support about 19 folks in the field. So anytime they get an insured that maybe has a bunch of special hazards, right? We write a lot of distilleries. So being in Kentucky, I see a lot of those. So if anybody's ever been in one, right? Special hazard galore, you got combustible dust, you got flammable liquids processing, flammable liquid storage, right? We were talking earlier, was up in Baltimore last fall for a spice company, big combustible dust exposure. So my job is to help our consultants in the field really evaluate the exposure controls over that, which includes a lot of evaluation of sprinkler systems. So I'm kind of the consultant's consultant, if you would. Also, Kelly and I are what we do in loss control. We do a lot of teaching. We kind of help our foundational folks, our early career professionals, kind of get them up to speed on how we do things, how to thoroughly and adequately evaluate property controls over exposures. This is the fun part of the gig, coming and talking to you guys. I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. Kelly and I were talking about this on the way over here. I shockingly started off as a workers' comp guy and how I ended up in property. This was a long time ago. I've been in insurance about 24 years now. The company I worked for, Kentucky Employers Mutual Insurance, was a monoline comp carrier in Kentucky. This was the risk pool initially in Kentucky. I'm sure you guys may have something similar here. But anybody that got booted out of their current carrier because of losses, the fatality, or the high risk stuff, that's where they went. So I spent a lot of time in coal mines, surface mines, quarries, steel erection, residential construction, right? So then thankfully I got into multi-line with a multi-line carrier when I came to Cincinnati about 12 years ago. And I'll plug this any chance I can, the best career decision I've ever made. So what we're going to talk about, what I want to get across today is understand where to find lithium-ion batteries. What are the hazards? What's thermal runaway? Why they're so difficult to extinguish? And best practices you can hopefully take away to your workplace. Even though I'm in property, my goal at the end of the day is to help send people home safely and families. That's what we're all here to do, right? Hopefully that's what we take away. What can you take back to your folks or your insureds to kind of help minimize these exposures? So real quick, if we just think about what we have on us right now, how many batteries do you think we have in the room? Everybody's got at least probably 2 or 3 on.
Yeah.
At least. So how many people are in here? My Kentucky mass off, somebody had to do it for me.
It's probably like 50.
Yeah, quite
50. Yeah.
Small ones, right? Probably, we'll talk about the different types of batteries here in a second. We got quite a few in here. One thing that Cincinnati, we practice, you know, this is insurance 101. We practice a lot of risk avoidance when it comes to lithium-ion batteries. We won't entertain lithium-ion battery manufacturing. We won't underwrite it. We won't touch energy storage system, recycling. That's just stuff we're not going to insure. We've just chosen to do that. Will that change? Who knows? Especially as this topic evolves, especially from a suppression and control standpoint. I don't know if that'll change. It might. When you can underwrite a dynamite factory, right? If it's well controlled and they think you get enough rate, you can underwrite anything. But we've chosen to avoid that. That doesn't mean we're not immune to loss. I know your insurance folks, everybody knows what lesser's risk is. So think about your big commercial parks here in Grand Rapids. Just a big commercial park with these big concrete tilt-up buildings, right? A lot of these are 500,000, 1 million square feet. You got 2 or 3 demising walls in these things. You got multi-tenants. We insure a lot of those. That means we're just insuring the building, right? We don't necessarily insure the tenants. But you never know what they're doing on the inside, right? So we could very well insure a building. We'll walk in there, they're building energy storage system. They're charging lithium-ion batteries. Maybe they're recycling. So that's why we go out and we lost control of this thing to really get an understanding of what we're on. That doesn't mean we're going to cancel them. It just means we got to really get a good understanding of what the overhead sprinkler system capabilities are and what other type of controls are in place. Just curious for those of you in insurance, what are your companies doing? Are you avoiding certain industries? Are you underwriting these things? Are you going after them? What's your red flags?
Same as you. So that
Yeah.
dealerships and stuff that have chargers, but no manufacturing or storage of batteries.
Anybody else?
I mean, we're pretty much just generalists, so we have places with chargers, parking garages with like electrical vehicles that are being charged in them. I'd say a lot of tools, hand tools that have lithium-ion batteries, and just like controls around those. So that's what I'm pretty much most interested to learn about, how we can control those.
It's safe to say these things aren't going anywhere. Absolutely not. They're here to stay, they're growing. I don't know the numbers of, so Cincinnati, we do personal lines too. Kelly and I don't work in the personal lines, but we do personal line business. We do a lot of high net worth business, which means expensive electric cars, EVs, right? Some things we're not touching, we're not insuring Cybertrucks. So we have some on commercial policies, it's inevitable, right? Somebody owns a construction company, maybe the president, the owner has an EV. You know, we're gonna underwrite that. But, you know, we'll try to get as much rate as we think we can. So it's unavoidable. So I just kind of threw some pictures up. We know this, right? I don't know if you guys have seen, we'll talk about car stackers here in a little bit, but we insure a lot of habitational, a lot of high-rise hab. That includes parking garages, sometimes parking garages below grade, which presents some unique challenges. But this stuff is everywhere. I mean, I would venture to say that our garages at home, some of us got that. I do, right? I've got my leaf blower, my weed eater, right? I'm not doing gas anymore. My yard's not big enough to justify it. It's just too easy, right? So this is an energy storage system. We know what the up to in the corner are. This is an automatic retrieval storage system. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So are all lithiums the same? These are different types that we have and we encounter in the field or that are out in the wild, right? For my purposes, when I'm evaluating the risk, regardless of what these are, they're all lithium-ion. That's how I'm treating these. They have different makeups, they have different uses, different applications, right? Does anybody know which one is in your iPhone? We can get a copy of this presentation to your folks if you wanted it. And if there's any questions that you guys have that maybe I don't know the answer to, I'm not going to pretend that I have them all. I'll find an answer for you. Fair enough? So to give you an example, we insure a lot of country clubs. That means a lot of older buildings, a lot of historic buildings, a lot of frame construction. A lot of times you'll see the car storage where, I don't know if any of y'all golf. I'm not built for golf. Car storage usually underneath these buildings, right? That's not a good risk in my opinion. We got a bunch of lithium-ion golf carts underneath a 100-year-old frame building, that's not, I don't think that's a good risk. Had a rep call me and say, hey, but it's lithium iron phosphate. They're good to go. They're not good to go. It's still the same risk. We're still going to get thermal running there. It's a non-sprinkler country club. What do we do? Let's get off this. We don't need to be underwriting this. We're going to take a bath in this. It's on. So when you see these in your workplace, you get an idea of what they are because they all have different applications. You have the same exposure. Okay. So you're going to have potential for thermal runaway. They're difficult to extinguish. We're going to talk about that. There's a lot of other things that go south with this.
What's in our article?
Cobalt.
Yeah. That's what I was.
Yeah, sorry.
That's our
catch. These are the three predominant shapes that we have. Okay. Cylindrical, prismatic, and pouch. This is what you typically see in any type of lithium-ion battery cell. Cylindrical is going to be the most common. You're going to see EVs, power tools, laptops, believe it or not. You got prismatic. That could be the shape of that really helps where that goes. That could be in some EVs as well. Then you have pouch. Pouch is what you see in mostly low power devices, remotes, hearing aids, stuff like that. So they're all lithium-ion batteries and all have different applications. But the guts of these things and what can go south are all the same. Okay? Again, we're painting with a broad brush here. This is the inside of the lithium-ion battery and what it does. Anode, cathode, positive, negative charge. You have an electrolyte in the middle of the stuff, and that's kind of what's the nasty part. We're not talking about Gatorade, right? You have these lithium ions, which are typically lithium salt, pass through. So you have a separator in between that, which is typically, it's a porous barrier. It's like a thin membrane. It's typically plastic, like a polypropylene. It allows these ions to pass through. And these charges prevent those from going from one side or the other. That is the setup of any lithium-ion battery, those individual cells, okay? What happens when these things fail? The separators can fail. Everybody heard of thermal runaway, what that is? So when these things get damaged, you get thermal runaway. So you have a failure for various reasons. Physical damage, right? Every time you drop your iPhone, anytime you drop your iPad, your laptop, guess what? You have a potential for damaging that. Now it's in plastic, it's encased, much like power tools. You got a warehouse full of power tools. You got lithium-ion batteries in plastic casing. You have them packaged in corrugated boxes, maybe with corrugated separators in between. That's a little bit easier to protect versus a warehouse full of individual cells like the cylindrical thing we saw. Had an accountant in Tennessee call me. He was in a bind. He was flustered. The very next day, he was anticipating significant, I'm not talking one pallet, I'm talking, anybody here got a warehouse to manage? So I know us insurance folks, we see a lot of distributors, right? You never know what's in these things. As soon as you walk in, you see rack storage, 30 feet up to the roof. It's like, okay, what are you storing, right? I need to know. It's palletized, it's a double rack, a single rack, a multi-rack. You need to know the overhead design, right? I'm not going to jump up and down too much about power tools if you're storing some of those because they're a little bit easier to protect. You get like pre-weighted for the sprinkler system on the actual packaging. If you got a warehouse, and this is what this guy was going to get, individual cylindrical battery cells from China, which is where everything's usually manufactured, right? Most cobalt is in the DRC, but it's refined in China. So you get these individual cells that come in cardboard boxes. They're from China. Can't speak to the manufacturing quality. You don't know if they were damaged in transit. That's bad news bears, is what that is. These cells get damaged because of defects, right? You take an EV, an fender bender, potential for damage. Overcharging, overheating, all that can lead to thermal runaway. But what happens is this electrolytes start getting, once these things get heated up, you get pressure. When you get that pressure, that flammable electrolytes starts leaking, you get off gassing. Once you get that, you start seeing the smoke. These things give you an exothermic reaction. These things get so hot, right? You get propagation to the very next cell next to it, and then the next one, and then the next one. These things are extremely difficult to extinguish. And again, don't raise your hand. If you guys need to interject, please. Throw some commentary my way.
I used to work at a lithium ion battery plant
Oh my.
here in Holland. And one thing we had hundreds of thousands in the warehouse, so we had a robotic arm that would track how long they sat in a single spot, would go in, pick them up and rotate, every so often, just so they didn't sit in the same position, day after day.
Yeah. And you probably knew what level they were charged at when they was being stored.
Back then I didn't. I don't remember now,
But a
but
lot of times these warehouses, you get these batteries, you don't know. Are they fully charged? Are they 30% charged? You're gambling. Then if you have an inadequate sprinkler system or you don't know what your sprinkler system capabilities are, that's even a bigger recipe for disaster.
What is your thoughts on I know China has their own documentation that's supposed to be equivalent to UN's documentation on the stability of lithium ion batteries, the acceptability. The place I used to work at used to buy equipment that came from China, and they would try to pass off China's testing for the equivalent of the UN, and that was always kind of a difficult area.
I would prefer to see something like a US based testing.
Yes.
Or UL, something like that. But
UL, sorry.
no, it's all good. When it comes to something like that, if it's a reputable manufacturer and they say, hey, this equipment's from China, it's from Europe, it's from Italy, it has the same quality standards that you would have because there's no US based manufacturer, right? That what I typically like to do, and I'm sure Kelly and operate the same way as the rest of you guys. If I have some unknowns with an insurer, that is when I need them to prove it to me. Whatever that means, documentation, give me a narrative. Tell me why this meets our standards here. And it very well could be more stringent in Europe on some equipment or some manufacturing, but I would prefer to see something listed that has some type of standard to it. If it's something I don't know, then I'm going to ask that insurer to prove it to me what makes this equally as safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think
That's a tough sell.
that was
Very
always the
tough.
challenge, is because you have that language barrier
Yeah.
that you're dealing with. And so that was always the challenge in those situations, is dealing with the manufacturers of these OEMs and trying to get that point across that, trying to ask the right questions, the right way to get the answers.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult, and that's a big roadblock because, as you guys know, if you're distributing or selling or making these batteries, the product liability, they have very long tails. Right? They can go on for a very long time. Anybody that's touched it in that process gets brought into it. That's why these defense costs from insurance companies get very high because you may very well very well not have a defective product, or you didn't fail to warn, right? But it still gets drawn out, right? So that's really the best answer I have for you, because if there's no if you're a distributor and you're getting that stuff in, there's no US based manufacturer, you're going to be considered a manufacturer. So that's how I've always handled it. And a lot of times when we get that much, you get a lot of pushback, and that's when we probably walk away from an insurance standpoint.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a challenge in operations because the more lithium ion batteries end up in things, the smaller the profit margin is on those things. So, when you think about a Tesla, it has a really good profit margin, I would assume, right? They can afford to get into a manufacturer in China who is doing legit business. But lithium ion batteries are showing up in things that cost almost nothing. And so then you're dealing with these operations folks who want to get the cheapest lithium ion batteries possible to get into the product, so there's still a profit margin on the product. And this is where the tension comes in, is if your EHS people are like, wait, there's no testing on this battery, you get like a pallet's worth and it just shows up at your place.
Yeah. And I mean, you can get on Google right now and buy individual sales. There's a lot of websites that sell these things. That's you know, you're looking for reputable vendors, you're doing your best to do your homework. It's tough right now. That's the thing about this with batteries for anybody that deals with sprinkler systems, where we were with plastics 30 years ago is kind of where we're at with lithium ion batteries. We didn't know how to protect it. So anybody in insurance, if they get wind or submission on their desk and somebody's an injection motor or a blow motor, right? Or they store plastics, your ears are going to perk up, right? Because plastics are petroleum based. When they burn, the heat release is significant. The BTUs it puts off is significant. The smoke damage is significant. So we know how to protect that now, right? With EH1 design sprinkler systems, ESFR storage applications, right? Lithium ion batteries, there's not a lot out there. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but NFPA and FM both have guidance for stationary energy storage systems. FM has something that has a data sheet on manufacturing. Right now, that's kind of it. So are we familiar with the differences between, so in insurance, we are always looking from a standard standpoint, we are looking at NFPA and Factory Mutual for our guidance. That is where we go to say, okay, I've got class 3 combustibles and plastic IBCs 3 high. What does NFPA 30 or Factory Mutual tell me how to protect this? That's where we go. You're not going to find that really with battery manufacturing right now. It's tough because, yes.
So what do you guys look for in a sprinkler system, like design for lithium ion battery storage? Are you looking for an ESFR system or are you like, I don't know. I have no idea.
Batteries you have,
Okay.
are they encased like for a power tool versus individual cells? Are we talking multi-rack rows, 30 feet full of batteries? Are they on the bottom tier? There's a lot that goes into what we're going to look at. If I have a whiteboard, so think of about a pyramid, okay? The bottom third of that pyramid is water supply. So from a sprinkler protection standpoint, if I don't have enough water from the city to feed that sprinkler system, doesn't matter what you got. Doesn't matter. We're dead in the water. So that means you don't have enough to feed it, or you probably got to fire pump the boost your PSI, right? Then I'm looking at design. Is it CMDA? Is it ESFR? What do I have to protect it? Sprinkler systems are not going to put them out. They're going to suppress them to keep it cool. There's some other products out there, like Fike has one that is a product. There's a couple other small vendors that are coming out with stuff. Water is going to be king still because it's readily available, right? But as far as the actual sprinkler design, it really boils down to what type of batteries you have, how is it stored, how's it encapsulated, what's your ceiling height. There's so much that goes into that. So I wish I had one answer to give you.
Yeah, it's hard.
And a lot of it boils down to, like when we get into energy storage systems, your ventilation, early detection, rate of rise detection. There's some products out there that are looking to target individual battery cells to stop that thermal runaway at the individual cell control before it catches another one on fire, gets the thermal runaway. I don't know how close we are. So NFPA develops consensus standards based off technical committees. So every 3 to 5 years, they come up with something else. Factory Mutual is its own insurance company. They do long scale burn testing. They can come out with stuff pretty quick and make changes. They are typically more driven towards property protection. And NFPA always has minimum standards, more life safety stuff. We look at both. But any insurance carrier, as you know, can operate as their own authority having jurisdiction. I can walk in and say, yeah, NFPA 30 allows you to have 27,000 gallons of class 3 combustibles, but this stuff isn't water miscible. 27,000 gallons is a lot for class 3, for a lot of hydraulic oil motor. We could say, we want it at 10. We're not going to be a player in this. Does that make sense? Any questions so far, guys? A quick little video here. Just going to talk a little bit more about thermal runaway, give you a little visual. Spectacles on. I guess that is the play button.
Yeah, try just hitting that bottom arrow.
What is thermal runaway? In lithium ion cells, the movement of lithium ions and electrons produces electricity. The process of a charge and discharge is normally accompanied by a small amount of heat, which dissipates from the cell. Thermal runaway is a phenomenon in which the lithium ion cell enters an uncontrollable, self-heating state. In thermal runaway, the lithium ion cell generates heat at a rate several times higher than the rate at which heat dissipates from the cell. When the temperature rises at a rate greater than 20 degrees centigrade per minute, the cell has reached thermal runaway. Thermal runaway can result in extremely high temperatures, violent cell venting, smoke, and fire.
Has anybody been on a flight where they've had an issue with a laptop or a tablet? I haven't either, and I fly on it. I hope I never do. Because, they can't get it off the plane, right? So they're probably gonna put it in a fire bag and isolate it somewhere, because these things gotta burn out. So this is a EV. Anybody seen what the actual EV batteries look like? Heavy. These batteries range, I think the Tesla Model Y has almost 4,600 individual cells in these batteries. So you got individual batteries that go into modules, and they go into a pass like this. So I think was estimated right now, I think the amount of EVs has more than doubled since 2020. And we're supposed to have over 60,000 EV chargers across the country right now, which is a lot. So it's typically the charging, not the problem, it's the batteries, right? And that's where your biggest, one thing you can take away back to your folks, the biggest risk with this is when it's charging. That's when you're at risk. Is when you're charging your lithium ion battery. Cell module pack. Obviously, the more we have, the more risk we have to catch on fire. This is the inside of a Ego 56-volt battery. This is the battery I had on. So you can see the individual cells. So we talked about thermal runaway. We get damaged if you drop this. Maybe you've left it outside in the heat and charged it outside. Maybe it came defective. Maybe when you're charging it, you notice it feels really hot. Maybe you got a funky smell. Probably shouldn't keep using this thing. You probably need to get rid of it and chuck it, even though they're expensive, right? I get it. But they do last, right? I've got, think about, excuse me. Think about, there it is. Wow, that changed quick. Think about how many batteries you have in your garage. How many think you got right now? I know exactly how many I got. I got 5. Got 2 of these bad boys, and I got 6. I got 2 of these guys, and I got 4 of the Cobalt fans. Like I said, my daughter plays softball, so we're putting these fans on the fence when we're sitting out on the softball field in August to keep us cool. So I got 6. How many of y'all got? 6 or 7?
7, yeah. 10.
Yeah.
I could use an electrical one.
They got what?
Oh, yeah.
They cut just like that.
Okay, quiet.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about some things we can do at home to kind of protect ourselves. If for anybody that's got kids at home, my daughter likes to plug her iPhone in and shove it underneath her pillow and let it charge, and that's a no-no, right? And it's telling a 14-year-old something over and over, sometimes it doesn't stick. But that's stuff we can't do that we take for granted, right?
Might be off topic, but since you mentioned it, for these batteries, I know I have the charger that you set it on versus the plug. It's a little slower. Is that a safer method of charging
So
or no?
I think it's just as safe. It's if you have a reputable product like that's listed, That's one thing when we talk about what you can do at home. Turn that thing over, it's gonna have the UL stamp on it. So you want something that's reputable. We don't want to just get something off Temu because it's super cheap and it's just a plain little black disc. You don't know where it came from, right? Just like cars, just like your iPhone. What's your iPhone do when you got it set in your car and you've forgotten about it in August? What's it do? That's its battery management system. All these charging devices have my ego charger. It stops charging once it's done, right? EVs have battery management systems that track the charge, other stuff that goes into it. So when these battery management systems fail, that's where we get the potential for thermal runaway. So I think it's just as safe. I think using stuff that is meant for, like a lot of these products, you can't switch like a DeWalt charger for a Cobalt, right? You got to use that specific product. A lot of these products are interchangeable. One of the reasons why I only use Apple stuff to charge my stuff. I don't want to get, I'm not saying some of the other stuff like Belkin or all these other products are still good. I just want the stuff that's meant for my product. I think that for me, for Corey, that's what I choose to do to make sure I'm charging my phone safe and keeping my home safe. Right? I get them more expensive for sure, but that's just one thing you can do. I think they're just as safe because they're supposed to stop charging. The newer ones will stop charging at certain point. That is its battery management system. That makes sense? Like I said, there's no one magic silver bullet to any of this. It's a lot of things we got to do.
Over the years, lithium-ion batteries have seen significant improvements in energy density, and while this has enabled more powerful batteries, it made them more vulnerable.
You had to do lots of things to optimize it. One of them was to reduce the space between the two electrodes. But as you get closer and closer to each other, the chances of a short increases.
A key ingredient in batteries is liquid organic electrolyte, but it is also one of the most flammable.
Liquid electrolyte, like gasoline, is a flammable liquid, and it could get into what's called a thermal runaway situation, where it just started, for boiling liquid, and it results in a fire.
Today's batteries are very safe, and for large ones, such as those in EVs, cells are meticulously controlled through a battery management system.
That has to maintain the right operating temperature for the battery. Then within that operating temperature range, the other aspect of it is how fast does it charge or discharge.
But there are rare instances where defects or damage cause issues.
We don't know the exact frequency of failure for lithium-ion cells. We assume it's somewhere between 1 in 10 million and 1 in 40 million.
Battery electric vehicle fires can happen due to defects in the actual battery cells or in the pack architecture. The battery pack design matters, and so does the quality of manufacturing.
And when they're fully charged, that's when they're the most dangerous.
Think of it as a fuel tank. If you have a fuel tank in a standard combustion engine and it's completely full and you develop a fire, you have a lot of fuel load, you have a long burning fire. It's the exact same concept with batteries.
The battery problem is unique to electric vehicles, but non-crash fire risk is not unique to electric vehicles.
That vehicle fire is next to a building or anything that's significant to life safety or other folks, they're gonna let it burn down. There was actual fire in Baltimore on an on-ramp. I think it was about the big SUV. It was over 40,000 gallons of water just to put it out, and it was hours. Imagine what that's gonna do to traffic, right? So when these things catch fire, they gotta let them burn. Other things they're doing is they're targeting underneath with high pressure hoses to get directly to the batteries because they're underneath. A lot of departments are using fire blankets. Have you guys ever seen those? So these are the big blankets that are made from typically silicone fiberglass that are thrown over, not necessarily to extinguish the vehicle, but to get it cooled down to maybe get it off the road or to transport it somewhere else. Overseas, there's people that can get it on EVs under control, maybe not extinguished, but under control, where they can get it on a piece of equipment or a flatbed and bury it or submerge it in water. It's a very specific type of water until it goes out. But we don't have that luxury here, right? Oh, hey, just get a bulldozer, push it outside and bury it real quick. It's not applicable. It's not practical, right? So that's why water is still king, because it's readily available and we can use it to at least get it under control and cool to get it somewhere that's safe. So I don't know where the technology is going to go with this. I think we're years away from it, because you got water mist system, clean agent systems, foam. A lot of foam is being used to put these things out. A lot of the stuff that's in it, like the Fike Blue product, is proprietary. So I really don't know what's in it. I know it's water based, but there's something in it to control that fire. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. But right now it's kind of unique to the different departments. So there's been some recalls with EVs. I think Chevy Bolt comes to mind. Ford Lightnings, the F-150 recalled some. What this has cost with these fires, with high rises, with e-bikes, storage systems, warehouses, the property damage and recycling efforts are estimated into the billions. So there's been a lot of fatalities associated with stuff, injuries to firefighters. So at some point we're going to get it under control. So we'll see exactly what happens.
I think that's one of the bigger problems in highly dense with a lot of populations is the e-bikes. When people are bringing those into the houses and apartments or
Absolutely.
or dorms on college campuses.
Yeah, I'm going home, I store my battery from my e-bike down in my basement. When I get home tonight, I go back outside.
Yeah. And
After this.
we insure a lot of, so I cover New York City and I've got upstate New York. So that's a lot of high-rise habitational exposures, a lot of e-bikes in hallways, a lot of e-bikes in the bike corrals, a lot of charging overnight, a lot of damaged batteries. That is a recipe for disaster. We'll talk about it. You mentioned put it in your basement, put it on something non-combustible to charge it. Don't charge overnight. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's a significant challenge. There's a big human element to this too. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, really quick. I used to work at a scrap metal recycling plant, and we would do a lot of training on how we can get the batteries out of these cars, because they can't go into the shredder like a normal gas vehicle can. With the gas vehicle, you drain the gas out of it, drain the oil. But here it was an issue, especially when they're damaged or in a crash, because they're all mangled and you couldn't get all the batteries out. So I feel like they didn't think of end of life very, very thoroughly, because it created a large issue for recycling companies.
Yeah, and we have recycling facilities that these batteries inevitably get in. It's like people just throw them in the trash.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not what you're supposed to do. But how they recycle these, they burn them. They'll smelt them. They'll put like in an acid bath, some type of leaching product to get rid of these things. That's $1 billion industry just for that.
Yeah.
So I was hesitant to put a video in. There was a recycler that used infrared cameras on their intake. So anytime there was a small incipient fire somewhere, that would detect it. And they had a foam gun that would shoot at to extinguish it.
Yeah, my old company, they put some of those fire watchers up, and pretty much, same thing. IR camera and detect any of those incipient fires and spray them immediately right when they're getting started, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think that's what we have to have. We have to have a layered approach to this stuff. And the safety professionals, right? That's what we have. It's not as simple as your sprinkler system in Africa.
Yeah.
It's got to be early detection, depending on the application, maybe thermal imaging, ventilation, rate of rise detection. So a lot of this is going to go into what we do to protect the batteries. Yes.
My understanding for, let's say, the smaller lithium ion batteries is you're supposed to put a piece of clear tape over that to prevent reaction. Is that true?
So when you recycle them, you're supposed to cover and take the
Yep, they've been positive.
posts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things is recommended to do that. Now, when it's if you're getting smoke, potential thermal runaway, obviously, we need to be hands off, and that's when your relationship with responding fire department comes in. So from a recycling standpoint, I can say yes, that's
Okay.
correct. But any other application, I honestly don't know, but I'd be glad to. You're talking about if you think it's getting overheated?
No, just process wise, just,
Yeah, I think when you recycle these things, that's a smart thing to do, to take it to an actual electronics recycler. Do not put these things in your plastic trash bin, guys. Because I store mine right next to my house, even though it's a brick home. That's not where they need to go, because you got potential other trash going on top of it. It gets hot in those things in the summer, right? You got a damaged battery, you're gonna catch something on fire quick.
Does it matter what kind of tape you use to tape the ends of them?
I've just done electrical tape.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't think clear tape only
Yeah.
works.
okay.
I think it's too
Yeah,
thin.
that's a great question.
And I have gotten the feedback, like we've had some like blown up batteries before, and the recommendation from our recycler that we used at the time was to put them in a bucket filled with sand.
Yeah.
Submerge them in there until they could get there and take it, and then,
Yeah.
do whatever they do with it, but that was always the recommendation.
So now you guys gotta have buckets full of sand.
Yeah.
Available in your emergency action plan.
Everybody has,
Which is the same thought process of burying an EV, right?
yeah.
It's the same. So, yeah, just, there's a government website you can go to find your closest, electronics recycler. I don't know what county is this here in Grand Rapids. So I'm sure they've got a recycler that has an electronic division. Even where I'm in Kentucky, the smaller counties I'm in, we've got a county ran division strictly for electronics recycling. So check that out. You gotta take the extra step to do it. You get them out, because that's gonna go to a landfill somewhere, and that puts them at risk as well, right? So, I had some videos of how they dispose of them, but I didn't want to get too deep in the woods on that. But you can get on YouTube and find hundreds of ion batteries burning, right? So the technology's out there. This is in California.
How we skip that, Ed? It's a good question.
A developing story in La Habra, 2 electric cars were destroyed after catching fire overnight. Happened about 2:30 this morning near Greenbrier Lane and Imperial Highway in La Habra. Both cars were parked in the driveway of a home. It appears one of the vehicles was plugged up and charging. The flames did not spread to the garage or the home. Police tell us there are no signs of foul play. No one was injured. The cause is under investigation.
If that car had been out there on the street by itself and not near a home or near that other car, they would have done their best to control it, but you're not gonna extinguish it.
So do you guys not insure like houses where they have a Tesla and they're charging it in their garage?
We do.
Okay.
We do. Yeah, it's the same thing as the questions you get asked, like, do you have a dog? What breed is it, right?
Yeah.
Do you have an EV? Do you have a proper receptacle to do that in, right? To answer your question, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, but Cybertrucks right now is the only thing we're really not touching. You gotta insure those to test.
Why is that?
Just cost of them.
Okay.
It's just, fix them, twice the battery, right? They're not there's not a lot of data out there on them, how to handle it. So we just decided to say, you know what, not right now. How are you guys doing that?
Honestly, don't know.
Yeah.
Don't deal with personal at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, we don't, right? One of the hot topics that we have in the insurance industry, I know this probably doesn't apply to you guys, unless anybody works for a real estate developer or property manager. Maybe anybody online that does. This is a big topic for us in insurance because we're kind of waiting on NFPA. Hopefully their third phase of their testing is going to come out in April and let us know what they want us to do from a protection standpoint from an occupancy standpoint and for car stackers. Has anybody seen car stackers in parking garages? So we, like I said, we insure a lot of high-rise a lot of high-rise office buildings. These things are rampant everywhere. And NFPA does have some things on two-level car stackers to basically have sidewall mounted sprinkler heads at each level with, it's a 5.6 K factor to protect these. But you get some of these, like you see the Carvanas, it's a Carvana, right? It has that. So you're getting more and more levels to these things as the modern parking garage evolves. So I'm going to get a little off track here, but NFPA just changed parking garage occupancies from what NFPA calls an OH1 to an OH2 system. This building, for example, an office building has what we call a light hazard sprinkler system, habitational, nursing homes, office buildings, right? You don't need a lot of density with this stuff because there's no storage. You got combustibles with the furnace where you don't have any manufacturing processes, right? You start getting to OH2 occupancies, which would, be your most occupancies, like manufacturing, wood shops, fabrication, metal, machine shops. Parking garages were at one time was called an OH1, which we needed a 0.15 density over a design area. And they changed it to OH2, which gives us 0.2 gallons per minute per square feet on the density, because the amount of plastics and synthetics in vehicles has skyrocketed over the last 20 years, right? You think about, when my grandma passed away, she left my dad this 1977 Ford LTD. Puke green, ugliest thing you've ever seen. It was a land yacht, right? There was nothing plastic on that thing, maybe a little bit on the inside, but now what do we have? Everything is polypropylene, ABS, HDPE, high density, low density. Everything's plastic gas tanks. Because of that, we need a more robust, denser sprinkler system to protect those in parking garages. Now, typically you see parking garages that are of more superior construction, right? Makes them non-combustible, fire resistant. But that could still cause damage to the next vehicle. It could still cause structural damage, right? So what we're seeing is parking garages with folks, especially habitational, that are going in and putting EV chargers in their parking garages. It's an amenity, right? If I have an EV, I want to be able to charge them where I live, right? Depends where you put them. You can have them, but we have a lot of parking garages that are below grade. So why is it bad news bears to put an EV in a below grade parking garage?
Fire goes up.
Part of it. How are you gonna get a pumper truck down there to fight that below grade?
Yeah.
We have to let it burn. Getting water down there to extinguish it's very difficult. So when we see EVs below grade, that's when we have to make an underwriting decision. So I don't know how the rest of other insurance carriers are handling it. We are recommending our insurers to get them out of the building regardless, to put them outside. If they do have to put them in, spread them out. You're supposed to do an electrical load to get an engineer in to evaluate the infrastructure of that electrical system to see if they can handle adding chargers. From there, what we're looking for, again, how's it ventilated? Is it an open air garage? Do we have regular rise detection? Who installed the EVs? What's the maintenance on them? Again, you're more exposed when you're charging lithium ion batteries than you are at any time. If the fire's not going to happen at the charger, it's going to happen at the vehicle. So this is kind of what we're struggling with in it from an industry standpoint right now. It's a hot topic. We'll see where it goes.
So if you have a parking garage, just your standard parking garage, do you want the chargers on the lower level or the upper level?
I would prefer, one, I could have them outside of here,
Okay.
out of the building. That's not realistic. I don't really want them near exits. I would prefer to see them spread out, spread the hazard around a little bit. So if the garage, any new garage has to be sprinkled. If you build one, you got to protect it. You got a lot of unprotected garages. So if we see a bunch of EVs in unprotected garages, we're not going to be a player for that. So again, my answer, and I hate to give you this, it depends. I'm not going to jump up and down if I got a 5-level parking garage and I got 6 or 7 EVs spread around it. I will let underwriting know, but I'm not going to jump up and down about it. But if I got all of those on one side of the building, on one level, then that becomes a bigger problem. But I think it's always situational risk dependent. don't know what that is. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, but below grade, you know, for any of you that have EVs, if maybe you live in a condo or an office building, you see parking EVs in below grade, maybe no park there. Make sense? Yeah. I know that's probably what you didn't come here to hear about parking garages, but gives you a little insight of what Kelly and I and the folks at the insurance industry are dealing with. Any of you guys warehouse and distribute? Anybody have any of these automatic retrieval systems or floor robots or automatic guided vehicles? Yeah, how are you guys from a maintenance and standpoint handling these things?
We have AGVs, but they're not lithium ion batteries yet.
Yeah.
So we're starting to get into some, but like FM just came in and like our battery chargers were in racks. So it's like you got to get your battery chargers out of the racks.
Okay.
Or build barriers, right? Fire
Yeah.
barriers around them. So making some changes on that.
So the barriers they recommended, I'm sure it's kind of something similar like what NFPA does with their scheme 8 or like in rack with like aerosols, combustibles.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're putting a non-combustible barrier.
Around the charger.
Yeah, so, yeah, these things are becoming more and more prominent in warehousing because it makes sense because it's automated, it's smaller parts. You got these robots that are on top of these grids that basically pick these open top containers and pull parts, pull inventory. They're difficult from a fire protection standpoint because you see how they're open top. So think about it, we have a sprinkler head pop above that, what's going to happen? Can't put sprinklers in. So we have a head pop above that because the robot gets on fire and just running around like Johnny Five up there, right? You're going to have all that water pool in those containers unless they're vented. And most of them that come with these systems are not vented. They don't have holes in them. So you're not going to be able to get water to penetrate down through that system to extinguish or control the fire. So we're dealing with this. Not only is it difficult from a fire protection standpoint, because we are looking at that. I'm assuming Factory Beach's been saying we're looking at that as an exposed, unexpanded group A plastic. Plus the lithium ion battery exposure as well. Then you have these ground robots. Again, if you have these, this is a good opportunity to leverage your relationship with your property loss control folks. What do they want to see? There's guidance out here with NPA and FM with these type of applications. So there are standards to look at for what is best practice. It really boils down to your maintenance and how you charge them. That's the biggest takeaway I could give you is how do we do that? Do they make you put in racks in?
We already had it.
Already had
Yeah.
racks.
Yeah.
You know what K factor you have those?
No.
K factor, the sprinkler head is basically the hole that the water comes out of. Bigger the K factor, the more the water. Talk a little bit about e-bikes. It's the most sound, it's the most logical transition I have, storage to e-bikes.
Try pressing the down. I don't know. All right, we just have to let it play then.
In Michigan, 8 out of 10 maternal deaths are preventable. So if you're pregnant or you just had a baby and something doesn't feel right, don't wait. From your head to your stomach to your chest, you know your body best. Feeling off? Follow up right away for the safety of you and your baby.
Well, fire safety officials in New York City have a warning tonight about the dangers of lithium batteries. An early morning fire broke out at an e-bike store, killing 4 people. CBS's Elaine Quijano reports the fire quickly spread to the apartments on the upper floors.
The deadly fire broke out just after midnight at this e-bike repair shop in Lower Manhattan. Firefighters arrived within minutes, but that's all it took for the smoke and flames to kill 4 people living above the shop. Just hours later, the fire commissioner left no doubt about what sparked it.
It is very clear that this was caused by lithium ion batteries and e-bikes.
There was a very large number of both batteries and e-bikes. This location is known to the fire department. We have written violations at this location before, and we have conducted enforcement in this location before.
Officials say so far this year, 108 fires in New York City and 13 deaths have been linked to lithium-ion battery explosions. Back in April, 2 children were killed after an e-bike exploded. Experts warn the resulting fires from lithium-ion batteries behave differently. They ignite quickly, burn hotter, and can be difficult for firefighters to extinguish. Ed Benjamin founded the Light Electric Vehicle Association. He says people should follow strict protocols with e-bike batteries.
As we say, never charge when there's not someone present. Never charge at night, never charge overnight. Always put a timer on it so it'll turn itself automatically, even if you forget.
Last year, there were 220 fires in New York City linked to e-bikes. Back in March, the city of New York announced a plan to combat lithium-ion battery fires by placing e-bike charging stations outdoors. Sharika?
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. Lane Quijano in New York tonight. Thank you.
Sense, and if you need 5 hours of charging, you can get a little $7 timer and power get cut on your outlet. That makes sense, but it's like, if I use it during the day, charging at night.
You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
It's tough because there's that human element where you have to take that extra step to do it, which is tough because we're used to doing it. Because I'm guilty of this too. Nobody's immune to this, right? I'm just as guilty of it as anybody.
Do you see it to the point where maybe they're gonna start putting timers in the chargers themselves to help control that system?
Well, some of the battery management systems in the products, like for my Cobalt charger, it shuts off when it's done. But as far as a timer, like it says, you could set it to turn off at a certain time. I don't foresee that. I might be wrong. Now, on the larger commercial scale stuff, you might see it, but consumer products, I think what we have now is probably what they're going to keep. That's been set up. This particular fire that I showed you, I wish I would have put the picture in here, what it looked like before. It looked like 100 different extension cords, surge protectors, daisy chain, all plugged into these 110 outlets everywhere. All types of batteries. They overloaded what they had. And that's what caused this particular fire. The e-bike charging, again, in a perfect world, you don't want to charge them indoors. You don't want to charge them overnight. Unplug them at night, the charger itself. Make sure you're using the manufacturer's original equipment to do it. But if I left my charger on with the battery on it overnight, after I'm working in the yard all day, absolutely I've done it. Would I prefer to see that on a metal shelf versus my wood shelf at home in my garage? Yes. Charge them on the floor. You can buy small little fire bags. You can buy them online. If you want to take an extra step and put your batteries in them when they're not charging, you can do that. Those products are available to you. But it takes us to be mindful of it to do it. Like I said, I've got 6 at home. I'm just as guilty as anybody else of taking shortcuts every day. What's that old thing they say, what you do in your profession versus what you do at home sometimes don't jive, right? So I wish I had a better answer for you. That's really what the best thing to do is to follow those type of guidelines. Any questions about that? And if you got a battery that just is hot touch, you're getting a funky odor, you can see physical defects on it. I don't think it's worth the risk to keep it. I'm taking that out. I'm going to recycle it. I'm going to buy a new battery. It's not worth it for me to lose my home, right? And my 2 roommates and my first roommate, right? It's not worth it for that. So I'm going to take those steps to do it.
So if you have a damaged battery, can you still take it with you to a recycling center?
Yes.
They'll still take those?
They'll still take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say, how hot is hot?
Yeah. None of us probably read the book that comes with it, right?
Yeah.
There's some guidelines in there with that, but unless you got like a FLIR or a
Camera.
or a flute to point at it and see. I think that's when you just, as a you know, as an adult and professional, you just use your judgment. It's like, man, this is too much, you know, this is normal. That's when you chuck. Yeah, that's when I would recommend chucking.
Yeah.
I don't know, does anybody else have any experience with that? With batteries at home?
I had one that's bulged. I had a drone battery. I was using it when it's hot and it got real hot. I noticed when I went to charge it, when I clicked the buttons, it like popped out at me.
Yeah.
And then I noticed the bottom was bulged, so I didn't use it anymore.
Threw it in the trash can, in your plastic trash can.
I left it in the dumpster, just next to the building I was at. Yeah.
There you go.
It's recommended that you plug these straight into the wall instead of in a extension cord or in a surge protector or fire script. Plug them into the wall directly, right? So those other things can fail. It can cause the chargers to overheat what is properly with their battery management system. If you need to use an extension cord, I would suggest you do it temporarily, at least be 12 gauge thick. If you're going to have to charge an EV, especially like on a construction site or something. But other than that, plug them directly into the wall.
Would you recommend timers, like the little outlet timers?
If you have them,
Yeah.
that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it just, again, you know, you just got one battery for 2 or 3 pieces of equipment. You know, this is perfect world stuff. So if you want to go that far, do it. I would just suggest don't charge overnight. Take the batteries off the chargers at night. Put them on something non-combustible, put them somewhere, keep them somewhere cool. And just don't hang on to damaged batteries. That's probably the number one thing I see in homes is just hanging on to batteries too.
Any difference between slow chargers or rapid chargers?
As long as it's a reputable product, it's going to have a built-in battery management system. So I have the rapid charger too for my Cobalt stuff. So I use it.
Yeah.
But I'm keeping on the metal shelf, taking them off my chargers and I'm unplugging. So have I forgotten? 100%. So let's just hope that one time, right? What's the insurance 101? Absence of losses, not mean absence of exposure, right? So does anybody have any experience with energy storage systems? So what this is, so what energy storage systems are ways for utility companies to store energy for a variety of reasons, for backup, the shade during peak hours. Typically, these battery powered energy storage systems, you see this generated from solar or wind. Sometimes it's directly from the grid. But basically, when these things are open, you've got a bunch of lithium ion batteries in racks on top of each other. Looks like a server room is what these, you're seeing modern energy storage systems laid out just like this. And for what reason? It used to be that you keep them inside in some utilities. Why do you think they went to this? Yeah, they're spaced apart. They're going to be easier to control or maintain. They're outside versus inside a building. The number one way that power energy is stored is still through hydropower. Basically, where you got water that goes through 2 different reservoirs, right? And when it goes from upper to lower, it goes to a turbine, and that's how they store the energy from a hydro standpoint. That's still the number one way we do it across America, but this is becoming rapidly the next best thing. So, like I said, we don't insure these type of things. And we come across companies and buildings that we do insure that do this, that manufacture these, that charge the batteries, absolutely. So it's always, well, we only charge them to an X amount of percent, but then we get them outside. Like, well, what's outside? They're stacked up right against the building, right? That to me is still not good, right? I want them away from my building and away from people. This is what these look like on the inside. So these things can be as big as shipping containers. They can be small as like a motor control center for anybody that does manufacturing that has any type of automated conveyance system. You see these? So this is what the inside of these look like. So as you can imagine, going back to thermal runaway, you got these individual cells in these things. You get defects, you get overcharging, you get overheating, you don't have the right detection or ventilation. Most of these will have suppression systems in them. What's going to happen? The thermal runaway, the next cell catches fire, the next cell, then boom, we have a significant fire. So Moss Landing, California, this happened in 2025. And you can Google this and see some of it. I'm going to show you a video. It's pretty impressive what happened here. This was an old, they did this expansion, I think to get like over 4,000 megawatt hours stored. This was like their first phase of a 5-year plan, and this is their older systems that caught fire. So, and this wasn't their first incident. They had at one time an overheat, which triggered a sprinkler system, which caused an arc, which caused a fire previously. But this bad boy here was pretty gnarly. If we get another commercial, I'm sorry.
Oh. Maybe.
At the January 28th FOMC meeting, the committee voted to leave the Fed funds rate unchanged at 3.5 to 3.75 range. Now, the market fully expected no move, but a couple of
That's a long ad. Yeah, I only can
details
pause.
still grabbed attention. First, there were two dissenters who favored cutting rates, Waller and Mirren. Now, that matters because it signals at least
I know.
What you're about to see may be difficult to watch. It's a real accident caught on tape. Fortunately,
Bear with me.
Drag it over.
Yeah, okay.
Play it in
Yeah.
I just share that screen or drag that over to.
There we go.
Yeah, then you can play and then skip it. Skip it there.
breaking news from KSBW Action News 8.
Breaking news out of Moss Landing tonight.
There is a fire at the Vista Energy facility there. It's a natural gas power plant as well as an ion battery storage system. And this thing escalated really quickly.
So initial word, as we take Action News 8 reporter Felix Cortez, initial word came out about 4 o'clock with a fire. And then Felix, you got there was just a little bit of smoke. It seemed to be faded. And then over the past 45 minutes, this thing has gone crazy.
It has exploded.
I mean, look, I'm gonna get out of the shot. Look at this. With 5 o'clock, Dan, you and I were talking at 5 o'clock, clear sky, no smoke coming out of those vents. This is the scene now over here at the Vista Energy Storage Facility at the former Moss Landing Power Plant. This thing is exploding. Look at that. It's just lighting up the night sky, and there's a huge plume of smoke over here. That advisory they issued earlier, that's definitely going to have to change. Because if you recall, back in 2-3 years ago, they had a fire at the PG&E Tesla facility that forced the closure of Highway 1 and a shelter-in-place order. As far as we know, that has not been issued at this time. And this fire is much worse than what we saw back then when they closed the highway. And oh my God, look at that! Look at that! And just a short while ago, okay, now we have a lot of crews. There's, okay, no sirens with flashing lights. Pan to your left. Salinas fire on their way. Okay, get back on the fire. Look at that.
Yeah, Felix, this is actually visible from all over.
We've been.
Go ahead.
No, we've been told that a short while ago that we're standing on private property. We've been told to leave. I'm going to have to find another vantage point, and I don't mind doing that because honestly I don't feel safe this close to this facility. But look at that. incredible.
The natural gas.
It's a Vistra.
There's a natural gas facility, but this fire, as I understand, Felix, is burning in the battery storage area, which brings in a whole different dimension because we're talking about burning lithium ion batteries, which can produce toxic fumes. That is why, Felix, they issued that order just a short time ago.
Yeah, that's, and as I say, just the extent of what we're seeing now, that cannot be an advisory. This thing needs to, people, I mean, just looking at this, I mean, if I'm looking at this, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sheltering in place. I'm closing my windows, and I'm clearly staying away from this area as they are being told to do. Stay away from this area. I wouldn't be surprised that it's a matter of time, a matter of minutes before they close the highway, just to allow some access in here. Oh, pan to your left, Andy. We got the hazmat.
Stuff, the same thing applies with extra ventilations or have some type of protection with it. It's probably smaller scale, right? This particular one was in a building, like a masonry non-combustible building with firewalls. Obviously, it caught all the containers on
Like curiosity struck.
through a roof, right? You're at that point, it's done. So I read somewhere that it was over 6 weeks that they used to put that out.
How long did it burn for?
A few weeks before they did it. Now, let's also think about some unknowns we have with this. They did some testing with this one, with the Chandler fire, which were Tesla battery packs, of the amount of cobalt and magnesium in the soil, the environmental impacts of where that stuff has to go. And people breathing that stuff on fire. We don't know what that's going to do right now, right? What is that going to do to people down the road, especially firefighters? We have to do that. It's not good. Logical would think that's not good. So
Is that entire site contaminated with, if they dump that much water on it, water leached into the ground, which.
yeah, there were, from what I read, that water. That's one thing they're talking about now is how to do water containment for stuff like this. Where does the water go? Because it's going to take the least path of resistance, like a leak in your home.
So they get your groundwater now and.
Absolutely. So the tail on this thing from potential lawsuits, individual health things, that's going to go on for a long time, very long time. So you're going to see as we grow with, I said, early detection, individual cells, we know it's going to take a significant amount of water. How does it contain that water? Is that built into the design of these energy storage systems? That's why you're seeing the ones that are the containers look like a trailer park. That's why they're kind of out away from everything. Still doesn't take away from ground contamination, which is quite honestly out of my wheelhouse, but is it a significant part of this? Same thing with Chandler, Arizona fire happened in 2022, estimated about $30 million worth of damage, 3,200 batteries. There was a manufacturing defect in one of the battery packs. Same thing, thermal runaway, got on fire, a couple other ones on fire. Significant loss, evacuations within 2 to 5 miles. Significant environmental impact. So, and these are just 2 of plenty that are out there. Not just in America, but there are plenty overseas as well. I'm not showing the video.
Helping now, lingering fire at a battery storage facility in Chandler. Fire investigators sending in the robots as nearby businesses were evacuated. ABC 15's Christine Stanwood reporting tonight near 56th Street and Pecos.
Roads blocked off for nearly 2 hours as crews tried to work to stop a potentially dangerous fire at a 10 megawatt battery storage facility inside that unmanned building. 3,200 lithium ion batteries.
I came back from lunch on Monday and about 12 o'clock, all the fire trucks were here.
On Monday morning, nearby businesses noticed smoke
coming out of the AES battery building.
Chandler Fire arriving to a battery storage facility where 3,200 lithium ion batteries are kept inside. The hazardous situation lingering for days. Fire crews providing an update Thursday night.
We took a defensive strategy, and for us means we're not going to open the door and go in with our personnel to take a look because we know some of the potential hazards of the battery degradation and the off-gassing and the different hazards that can cause.
Those business owners noticed something was off.
The fumes and the smoke are just really, really bad. It was just terrible. I mean, they make your eyes water and your throat kind of swell up. It was bad.
Thursday evening, they were asked to evacuate.
We're a little worried because we're not sure tonight what's going to happen. They said that we need to be out of here by 6 o'clock, and they don't know how long we'll be out of here or if we can even come to work tomorrow.
Crews eventually sending in robots to ventilate the building.
Ventilate the structure. The door has been closed. We've had a fire suppression system going for 4 days that has kept the atmosphere cool in there, which is what we want to do. But it has not put out the fire that the battery still keeps smoldering.
SRP using this battery facility to reduce their carbon footprint for some customers.
We use energy off the grid overnight when we have excess energy. They charge those batteries overnight, and then those batteries dispatch that energy the next day when our resources are really tight and when demand is very high.
SRP says customers will not be impacted by the fire, but they are keeping an eye on nearby transmission lines. Friday, crews will send robots back in to monitor the atmosphere inside the building. SRP and the Chandler Fire Department working together to figure out their next steps moving forward. No word yet on what caused those batteries inside to catch fire. Reporting in Chandler, Christine Stanwood, ABC.
Smoke. Untrained personnel open the doors to these things. So what does that introduce to that environment? Oxygen. That's not good. All right, we go back to what fire training means.
Yeah.
So those robots help protect. So you're seeing more and more technology, right? It's safety professional. That's what we're taught to engineer problem, right? So that's one thing they're using is robots to help them combat these things. And that not every department is going to have those available to them, right? That's going to be very specific to where these things are at. California at one time wanted to quadruple their energy storage, quadruple their storage capacity over the next 20 years. So these things aren't going anywhere. Go see more and more of them. So one of the quotes that I read from a fire service person that talked about these things was sacrificing scale versus safety. They're large, right? Are we really building safety into this with separation distances? They're put in metal containers to protect them from the elements, right? Do we really have this layered approach? Are we sacrificing safety versus scale? So to be determined. And the last quote that he said this just isn't an accident, it's a warning. And I think that's spot on from everything we're talking about, is how dangerous these things are. Right? Our job, property insurance, that's what we're there for, is these catastrophic losses, these shock losses. Sure, we can put your building back together. We want everybody to go home safe. That's what the ultimate goal is. So I think hearing that from a fire service person, this is not just an incident, it's a warning. That to me spoke volumes when I heard that. I was like, wow, it really is. That's why we're at a point where we're waiting on NFPA to come out with the battery standard. Much like they did with combustible dust a few years ago, kind of taking everything and putting it into one thing, and NFPA 660. So we'll see what happens. I know I'm kind of rounding third on time here, guys, so. We kind of already talked about this at home. This is straight from one of the NFPA tip sheets. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but if you do have these, use reputable products, plug them directly into your outlets. Don't use surge protectors, extension cords, charger e-bikes outside, away from egress, your garage doors, things like that. I can email out these tip sheets to you guys if you want. So for construction folks, one thing that we do a lot of builder's risk in Cincinnati. I don't know if the rest of you guys are playing that market. So when we go out to a builder's risk job site, we're looking for two main arcs and bangs is site safety or site security and your fire prevention plan. You know, what are we doing to protect people from coming on site and sabotaging that? Include battery safety in your site safety plan, your fire prevention plan. It's one thing that's missed a lot. So make sure that you have some type of checks and balances with your lithium ion batteries, visual inspection, make sure they're working, not looking for defects. Job sites are rough and tumble, right? They're hard on tools. So making sure that there's no defects, and include that in your fire safety.
I'd almost be more worried about not construction, because a lot of times you're in an open environment. If you look at your manufacturing site where you have your facilities or maintenance guys, and they just have a wall of batteries for all of the tools, like you could be looking at 100 batteries easy just in a maintenance shop.
Yeah, that's a great point. I just dealt with this a couple of weeks ago in Rhode Island, where the maintenance crew had on wooden shelves, just batteries.
Yeah.
Charged up on surge protectors, right? Like this is too much, or we're gonna overload it. We're gonna take the risk of overcharging and overheating, which is one of the two big things for thermal runaway, right? So as you're doing your walkthroughs through your facilities and you go to your maintenance areas, you go to your maintenance cribs and you see that becomes an opportunity for risk improvement.
So what are you gonna suggest they do then? Are they gonna split them up and move them to multiple? Because they're gonna use them, they're gonna keep them, so it's not.
100%.
You can't ask them to get rid of them, that's not.
Agreed.
So you're trying to split them up, or are you doing a study to look at the electrical systems to see if maybe you need to beef it up? Like if they want to store them in one area, maybe you have to beef up or add some electrical work to it to accommodate storage in one spot?
All of that, that's exactly what we're doing. That is when, if you have this exposure in your facilities, I think one of the first things to do is have a conversation with the fire protection engineer or sprinkler contractor. What can we do here to minimize this? It may be condense, get rid of, keep what we need, separate. But that's not a real world applicable, right? One of the first things we did was said, hey, you got to put them these into outlets. You got to put them on, get them off the wooden shelves. And then that area of the plant was not sprinkled because it was unfortunately kind of under a mezzanine. So it's just one area that got missed. I don't mind unsprinkled areas and properties. It just depends what's going on in that area, right? If I got an office building and you got two conference rooms not protected, we can live with that. But something like that, we still have to have some type of protection to control the fire. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but it really is a combination of all those things. Yeah, we can't, it's not realistic when we get rid of all that. They need it. But can they separate it? Can they charge them correctly? Can they inspect those chargers and the batteries? Can they sprinkle that area? Can they put some type of early detection, whether that's smoke or rate of rise? Absolutely. That makes sense. That sound fair?
Sure.
And again, this is risk management 101. What can we do as safety professionals? I think we've kind of hit on everything throughout the presentation. It's just understanding the exposure of lithium ion batteries. What are we doing? What are we doing from a control standpoint? Having conversations with your property loss control people, having conversations with your fire department, having conversations with fire protection engineers and sprinkler contractors to make sure we're adequately protected to control that fire. We monitor it with plan. Again, big topic, broad stroke. So hopefully you understand a little bit of why these things catch on fire and why they're so dangerous. You can take that back to your workplace, take it to your insurance, and take it to your home. Any questions? Thank you.
If everyone can do the survey in attendance, that'd be fantastic.
Couple solved. This takes, let's take attendance, so we do report back to ASSP what our attendance is for our meetings. This also helps us track. We're going to have future meeting places, and if you have a good idea, maybe this triggered something for a different topic that we could potentially do next year. We're getting ready to start talking about next year's programming. Other than that, thanks everybody for attending. Corey, thank you for presenting on this. I think because it was such a high level, a lot of different, people in different industries could definitely take away some education and, bring this back to wherever they're going. So just a reminder, March 3, Miller Knoll, F and Z. Miller Knoll's gonna be, presenting, and, appreciate you guys coming. Thank you.
If you have any questions online, put them in the chat.